your host for today, Justin J. Das, Partner Growth Manager at BNB Chain. And today we have a guest, co-founder Spencer Yang of Gomu. Spencer, are you here with us?
Hey, Justin. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet everybody. There was a bit of a delay because I was in the backstage waiting to come on.
All right. Yeah, that happens sometime. Glad you joined in really fast. So yeah, to get right into it. So everybody, Spencer Yang, founder of Gomu.co. So Spencer, before we get into your product, before we deep dive, we would like to get just a very brief background on yourself, how you got into crypto, how long you've been in the space. Just a very quick intro to get the crowd started out.
Sounds good. Thank you, Justin. Super nice to be here today with the audience and just share a bit more about myself and also, of course, more importantly, about Gomu's journey and how we basically are trying to add value to the BNB Chain ecosystem. So I've been in crypto personally for about 5 years now. Did a bunch of, meaningful endeavors in this space. Started out by really focusing on building products, investing, and went on to build a lot of the growth, revenue, and operation side of things at CoinMarketCap. And spent some time actually, post-acquisition to work on a couple of things as well before leaving, and then spend some time to take a break. And I jumped right in again into crypto with a stint focused on product at a company, Coinbase. Worked on many different areas across DEX, derivatives, Coinbase Wallet, and many other products in the Web3 ecosystem. And then very recently, in March, myself and quite a few team members that we used to work with at CoinMarketCap, we started a company, Gomu, to essentially tackle some of the problems in which is blocking us from perhaps reaching over 1 billion MAUs or users in the space. So we started really by trying to work on just better infrastructure and tooling for the space, starting with NFT-focused APIs, and of course, BNB Chain being one of the more active networks in the ecosystem. We decided to, of course, extend our support to the network. Yeah, that's a bit of my background personally.
That's interesting. CoinMarketCap and Coinbase, all large players in the ecosystem for quite a while. And how many years have you been in crypto?
Yeah, so I've been in crypto for 5 years in total. I came into the industry really in 2017. I would say, like from a first touch of crypto side of things, I actually attended a Bitcoin meetup back in 2013. And I think at the time, just couldn't make too much sense of things, even though it just felt like there was a lot of energy in the room. People were scanning QR codes, making payments, all that kind of good stuff. But I think at the time, I just wasn't that involved professionally in the industry. And in 2017, I was taking a break from my previous startup that was doing AI and automation, and decided crypto is the right time to jump into it right now.
That's incredible. Also, yeah, definitely agree. 2013 and 14, exciting time when everybody in the tech scene, like hardcore tech people, only they knew what blockchain and Bitcoin was. I heard conversations, mostly from programmers, talking about setting up their own Bitcoin mining, device or engine at home for passive income. But yeah, that's interesting. Thanks for the brief intro. So awesome, we can get right into it. So for our audience, we would really like to get a good grasp of Gomu. If you could share with us the product features and really just walk us through the process and how it works.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Justin. I prepared like a demo here for everybody, and what I would do is probably just maybe to set some color, set some context first before diving straight into that. So let me just open up and share my screen. All right. So we have over here just an example. I wanted to just touch on today in this particular demo an example focused on our APIs, right? So in this particular case, I wanted to share basically what we do on the Gomu side of things. So this is our homepage. As you can see, we focus on supercharging the NFT development cycle for developers, hopefully in terms of days instead of months. So if you go to the website over here, you'll be able to check out the Gomu documentation. And we have both the API as well as the SDKs. So the API basically, we have multiple features that we allow developers to be able to call for, let's say, if they want data in their contracts and so on and so forth. Before I dive into the API demo, I wanted to maybe just share a bit of a particular use case in which we're going through today. So let's say, for example, if you're a developer and you want to actually build out a wallet app or a portfolio app, and you want to essentially mirror some of the features on, let's say, a popular marketplace like NFT Trade or whatsoever, right? Let's say in this case, if I'm a huge fan of the Meta Gods kind of collection, what I would probably do is to go to the Meta Gods sort of collection page, check out the contract, and then find out more information about it. What I'll possibly do over here as a user, and I want to enable features like that, is to be able to, let's say, filter by the rarity of certain things. Of course, I'm not doing a NFT trade demo, but I just wanted to share, like, this is some of the use cases that you might want to have in your particular application. And then what I will do is I will then showcase what are some of the possibilities you can do with the Gomu API to build out some of these features. Let me just dive right in. Cool. So this is the documentation page that I think we saw earlier. In this particular case, I took the MetaGods contract, and of course, I filtered by traits of rarity 6, God of Gods, as well as I guess for NFTs that actually have the particular feature of the cape, right? In this particular case, I can add any of these I guess traits to the particular API query. And as you can see, I've also added the chain network over here, which is the Binance BNB chain. And then in the other side of things, so this is essentially a sort of a playground where you're able to test out the various endpoints and so on. And of course, we also do support other chains as well. But in this particular case, we'll just have to show what are some of the possibilities over here. So what I'll do is then I'll go ahead and click on the try it. Yeah, and then what happens is that you return the results from this particular call. As you can see over here, we have a couple of things to call out. One is the URI of the collection. There's also the minter contract, and then you can see things over here like the different trade types. As we saw earlier, we filtered by the trade type of rarity God of Gods number 6. So these NFTs are basically being returned with that particular trade, as well as the one with the cape itself. So imagine if you're, let's say, trying to create a filter feature in your app, this API call will be able to help you perform that particular function and then display that pretty easily on your front-end interface. So that is the NFT by contracts call. And then I think one of to call out the other endpoint that we have that could be interesting. So as you once you determine, for example, that you want to just integrate with like multiple chains, what you might want to do is you want to find out what are the essential transfers that happens for the NFTs of that particular collection. You might want to show a bit of a transaction history in your wallet app or your portfolio app or your game or whatsoever. So in this particular case, we will essentially copy in the contract address again of MetaGods characters. And then once we try it, we actually see that there's just all these transactions that has now been spit out back from the API call. We also, as you can see over here, there's basically all the details of what has happened for this particular NFT. And we have basically all of the historical transfers, swaps, and so on that happens. And there's basically a transfer type in that particular API call over here. And as you can see, it says that it's swap. So if you, I think that particular result will essentially help you to label that particular transaction, if it's a swap transaction, if it's a transfer, and so on and so forth. So that's just, I guess, the nature of this particular endpoint that you can find useful.
Yes, got you. So it's a very, sorry, please carry on.
Of course. Yeah, and then moving on a little bit. So earlier when I was on the interface, I was able to search for, let's say, the MetaGods collection. So in this case, if you want to have a ability for users to be able to search for various collections, you'll be able to do so. And then once you try this particular endpoint, essentially then you will have these various, for example, collections. And on the front end side of things, you can filter by verified, non-verified, and so on. And we try to make an effort to verify the right address, the right contract address, so that you can also then display this in your application as well. Last but not least, I would just share one particular call which is pretty useful as well for your portfolio features. So what happens many times is that you want to essentially query the balance of this particular address, how much BNB that address has, and so on, right? In order to show some form of portfolio value back to the user. So in this particular case, I would just pick this address and select the contract address, which is essentially looking for the ERC20, looking for the BNB token in this case in the particular wallet. And once I actually try the particular function, you can see that this wallet actually has 443, or there's a lot of BNB in its wallet, and you can then verify this with BSC scan. You can see that it's actually returning the same results. So yeah, that's a brief demo for the Gomu APIs on BNB.
Awesome, thank you, Spencer. So yeah, very interesting product. A lot of useful API calls for looking at specific NFT history, transaction history, and all sorts of useful information. So to take a step backwards and from a viewpoint, like a high level, what do you believe is the mission and the vision of Gomu API that you're trying to get to?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think in terms of the way we think about it, right now, if I were to be building an application on any blockchain network, especially BNB Chain, I will have to essentially start thinking about how am I able to get all these relevant data about my users or about this particular collection that I'm trying to do, especially in the NFT space. So when you want to do that, you would think about, okay, maybe like looking for external parties, you might think about vendors and so on, and you might want to build it yourself as well, right? Setting all of this infrastructure up takes quite a bit of time and resources. We've been there, so we understand the complexity of it. And also, as more and more transactions happen on chain every single day, if you want to have a historical snapshot of everything, that would just take up a lot more computing resources, and whether it's storage, whether it's memory and so on, infrastructure, and that is just not feasible for like a solo developer or like a relatively small team. You basically want to spend time building, ideas and features that bring you to product market fit as a developer. Not so much, features that are essentially, infrastructure layer things. Like for example, today, if I were to spin up a website, I'll probably just use a few service providers like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform, or whatsoever to do those things, right? And in a similar way, when I'm thinking about building applications on BNB Chain, I think we, as a infrastructure provider, want to essentially make it easier for you to be able to just get everything going, focus on developing cool features for users. Yeah.
That's cool. So very end user oriented. So I guess the next question I'm going to have is really around what kind of inspired this project to be very infrastructure focused, and what even led to Gomo focusing on NFT communities specifically. Given your past history in crypto, it could have been so many other things.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the way I think about it is that, with the rise of NFTs, we really see an opportunity to make it just really easy for any non-technical person to use our APIs. And specifically about the question of like, why NFTs? I think for us, we've been kind of out and about in the space, building stuff for ERC20 tokens, for BNB tokens, for different like sort of ecosystems and so on. And we find that, I think with the NFT wave, it's definitely super fascinating. For the first time ever, I think crypto has become a lot more visual, a lot more experiential, a lot more interactive, and a lot more just like exciting, right? Even music and all these kind of gaming related NFTs have popped up over the past 1 year or so. So I think we found that this is really the way forward in terms of like helping us as an ecosystem to be able to reach the next billion users, which is why we decided to focus on NFTs as a particular category, and there was just so much interesting things we can possibly do. Right. And then when we thought about how do we essentially then structure around this whole idea of like infrastructure to solve for, I think we then realized that we just want to build things to be flexible, to be easier to use, and to be scalable as well. So that's just really how we thought about things from the get-go. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Now, to be focusing on NFTs and to really position yourself and foresee yourself providing access to the next 1 billion users into crypto, what what do you think is the core driver in terms of, your team's background? Like how does it match with this whole NFT craze? And it would really help us understand like the
Yeah.
dynamics behind.
Yeah, I think the way that we kind of structure our team, as with any early stage team, is that we start with people that we know are just like the experts or the best in their respective fields, and also have the ability to be able to work well together, right? We definitely screen for culture, for essentially alignment, and also just like like being crypto forward and just like growth oriented as individuals first. Right? And then once, of course, we build the team out, we then ask ourselves, hey, how do we all learn together to, like to learn more about what's happening in the NFT ecosystem? We made some purchases, some bad purchases, some good purchases ourselves, as with any team trying to build in the space, right? You kind of got to dog food the, the assets as well in a certain way. And we found that to be very exciting. And I think through that process, we actually got to know many collectors, many traders, many investors, and even just regular people who are launching projects, including artists, including brands, and so on. And I think what got us even more excited was just how much passion each of these individuals actually brought to the table. And that affected us too, right? Because they would come to us and they would say, hey, can you build this for me? Can you provide me this service? Can you make it easier for me? And so on. I think that just made things more motivating. At the end of the day, we love it best when people are actually kind of like banging on our doors, asking us to build certain things, right? I think that's what we're seeing in the NFT ecosystem, and we really enjoy that. So I think I guess maybe just one point I would say is that I think we structured our teams to be highly technical, and we have a very product and engineering driven team culture. Like I would say, more than 70% of the team is actually engineering, and then we have then a really good complementary group of product and design team members to really help bring some of these ideas to life. Yeah.
Got you. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense for a team that's very product and engineering driven. And we talked a lot about building. I guess that's what they do best. So the next question I'm going to have is actually around building. So from a builder's perspective, what are some of the main advantages of building NFT applications with Gomu, and what can developers do with these APIs?
Yeah, thanks for that. So I think in terms of the APIs, as I demoed earlier, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think for us, we are always trying to make it easier for developers to essentially build better things in this space. We've seen people try to use our APIs to build NFT marketplace features. We've seen people try to build portfolio features. We've seen people trying to increase the performance of their pictures loading in their apps. That's so important, right? You wouldn't want to buy an NFT and then you sort of refresh your app and then the NFT doesn't show in your wallet. That would just be a bad experience, right? So even things like that, we actually do cache, for example, the images, so that wherever you are, you'll be able to maybe get that through our CDN in a more performant way, right? So we try to spend time thinking through what is it that makes the experience of the users better for your users, and then in a way we try to do that for the community in a certain way. So yeah, this is I guess how we think about things. And then I think as you probably will realize, a lot of the developers are also looking for things that are essentially unique to their community, right? Every community is unique in some ways, right? Some communities rally around maybe certain brand IP and so on. And for that, maybe they want to have a token gated experience for their community. So we are going to be exposing more of those kind of features of essentially building the ability to build NFT explorers, the ability to build more commerce actions, the ability to build more token gated experiences and so on. We'll be adding more and more of that into the APIs. So we do have this like change log in the APIs. So do keep an eye out on the change log to see if there's anything that we'll be releasing next.
Yeah, that's definitely exciting. Right. So we talked a lot about unique cultures across blockchain layers. So now this is our chance to talk about BNB Chain. So what made the decision for you to come and build on BNB Chain?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's just really developers have been asking us for it. As we started talking to a lot of developers and a lot of communities and people, they were just asking us. We often we basically take note of all the questions in which the developers and communities ask. And one of the top questions that they ask is when are you going to support BNB Chain BNC? That was like back in I guess like March when we first started as a company. Like immediately we were asked questions like that from people that we were speaking to. So that really helped us to prioritize. And we really spent a lot of time also understanding the nuances of the ecosystem before we dive in, right? I mean, we understand that the BNB chain is highly performant. There was just a lot of, and it's pretty straightforward for developers to deploy smart contracts, and also really good depth out there. And there has been a very strong developer following, both on the DeFi side of things, as of the Web3 universe, as well as on the NFT gaming side of things, just because of faster transaction speeds, lower transaction fees, and the community. So I think it was just really due to all of these factors that we decided we really had to get more involved, right? And also, I think in a certain way, we are still improving on this right now. At the moment, our NFT APIs, we cover, I think, over 34,000 contracts on the BNB chain, and about 100 plus million NFT tokens have been indexed on our end right now. But we're always looking to see how we can improve the data quality and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Right, definitely. That makes a lot of sense on why you want to build on BNB Chain. So the next question I'm going to have around is, for Gomu specifically, when pursuing this NFT space, what do you think is the biggest opportunity that you have from your positioning as a product?
Yeah. I think from our perspective, I think our biggest opportunity in the NFT space specifically will be, I think, two things. One is that I think the NFT space is getting even more mature over the last couple of months and years, right? It's no longer just NFT as a category that we are in. It's a lot of other things as well. It's all these subcategories of experiences that people are getting more and more excited about. Let's start with one, right? We have Web3 gaming, crypto gaming, that is really becoming a category on its own. There's like some really good strategy games. There's some really good sort of GameFi experiences. There's some really good sort of like easy to play games as well on various ecosystems. And most of our, of course, like the BNB chain, right? We're seeing more and more game studios developing IP of their own, getting a lot of interesting things to launch. So I think that is what I personally am pretty excited about. I'm also seeing the category, of course, of like membership communities, right, where people are just here for good vibes, for a good time, and also to connect with people. That's always a good time, right? There's nothing wrong with that, and we see that everywhere in the non-metaverse world, right? Where everyone actually connects with people, sign up for golf memberships and so on. I think in a similar way, we see that kind of happening in the metaverse. Speaking of metaverse, we also have seen some of these like sort of assets like land and so on emerge, right, across various ecosystems. That's always interesting because it's also about geography, right? It's about the nature of what's on the land itself. It's not just about the land itself and so on. The matter changes as well. Let's say if the way that we build the worlds, or if the developers build a world in a different way, right? Last but not least, I think what I'm personally interested in is also the more like interactive media type of NFTs, whether it's like music, whether it's video, whether it's algorithms, whether it's art and so on. I think it's like all super interesting, just as a way to express ourselves. Right? I think we humans, since the inception of whenever cave paintings or wherever, we've been drawing, we've been expressing ourselves through visual media and interactive media. Right? And the NFTs as a category really allow us to be able to preserve that. So I think that's super fascinating for us, and from that perspective. And it just maybe speaking a little bit to what we will possibly be building in this particular space. I think we vision of these categories, we see that the kind of tooling, the kind of support, the kind of data that is required will be a little bit different, right? Maybe on the interactive media side, it's about performance of those media, accessibility, the ability to expand, and so on, make it easier for you to put that into your applications, maybe even tying with like music players, video players, and so on and so forth, right? And maybe for the other things like land, it's about augmenting that with data about other things like off-chain data that maybe are stored in centralized servers or off-chain data sources. For games, I think it's all about the user experience, right? And how do you make sure that it's easy to maybe have a mobile SDK to put it into a mobile app on iOS or Android or other app stores, right? So I think the way that we think about our roadmap, at least for each of these categories, will be a little bit unique depending on how the subcategories kind of evolve over time. And that's just, I guess, my views on the NFT space and what we'd be excited about in a nutshell.
Definitely, we covered some very interesting areas over here. Ranging from metaverse to I guess, content ownership, and also covering kind of how you're going to build around it. So yeah, quite a lot of areas. I guess one thing that would be interesting for us to clarify is, let's say over the next 6 months or the next 12 months, what is your product timeline? Like, what opportunities do you see, and how specifically are you going to build your product around it?
Yeah. I think for us, the way we think about roadmap is always based on user feedback. We have a very I guess user focused kind of like thinking over here. I think right now, at least based on what we hear, we definitely need to integrate and have more order book data from the various marketplaces to various trading venues and so on. So it's easier for maybe some form of like trade aggregation on the BNB chain. That's something that we will be working towards, and we already have been starting to think about how we're going to actually offer that in a more performant way in our APIs. And then we are also going to be basically doing a lot more verifications of contracts, because right now I think there's not many, not a very good sort. There's like so many contracts being spun up, so many NFTs being launched, and it's not much of a very good sort of experience over there that we want to essentially help for. And then on the minting side of things, there's definitely a lot of tooling already out there to help with minting. We would love to see what we can also help with if there's any sort of issues in a particular process that developers face today. So yeah, these are the three immediate things that we are thinking about.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Just a quick reminder for everybody to keep up to date with their Twitter. We're going to see some very exciting deliverables coming up soon over the next 6 to 12 months. Okay, so perfect. So we're almost at time. So one last question from my side, at least, which is more towards the BNB chain community. So, what do you hope, or what is your expectation from the broader BNB chain?
Yeah, I think for us, I think the BNB chain ecosystem is already doing very well. I think what I really appreciate is the efforts that, and of course, the BNB chain ecosystem team, like yourself, Justin, has been doing to just really help, elevate the awareness and also information to decrease information asymmetry across the ecosystem of like the newer developers, the newer team members, the newer teams that are coming to build in the ecosystem. So really appreciative of all the efforts over here. I think definitely, as a participant in the ecosystem, I'd love to just see more teams being built, and also like projects to help each other out in a collaborative way, right? So whatever we can do as well on our end to help support builders, give feedback on product, dog food, review slides or whatever for investor presentations and so on. Happy to be helpful. Just reach out to us. You know where to find us on Twitter. You can find us through emails as well, whatever you prefer. Even snail mail if you really want to. We can do that too. So just let us know, and we'll be happy to help. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, before we close this off, let's just see if there's any questions from our viewers. So let's just give it like 10-20 seconds to quickly view over it. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comment section. And that should be it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Spencer, for your time. Thanks for joining us here and for sharing with us a lot more about Gomu, and for sharing with us the future of NFT APIs and how you're going to build around the ecosystem, especially more so on BNB Chain.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you so much. And I guess GM/GN to anyone out there, depending on which time zone you are. Have a good one, everybody. Yeah.
Have a good one, everyone. Bye.